Hey everyone, welcome to the Mastermind Book Club. Today we are reviewing another book by Ray Dalio. The book will be introduced by Charles Comer.
Hey,
Charles?
good evening, everyone. The book is a template for understanding Big Debt Crisis by Ray Dalio. In the book, we as the chart is showing here, we talk about long-term and big-term debt cycles. Long-term cycles are cycles that can, like paying for your car. Most that's a term cycle where you pay for 60 months on your car, and after that 60 months you have the car. So you're taking assets that you have now to pay over a period of time for something if you wanted to have saved money, you would have paid the car out in full right up front. But with the long term debt, it allows you to push it out. Now, just push this on a larger scale with governments. Governments do the same thing. They 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 obtain goods, services, and supplies and support our economy by borrowing from future money. And when this future money is borrowed from, you pay it over a, a long stretch of time. So this is the big debt cycle. So a lot of times it's supported by gold, it's supported by oil, or it's supported by some type of monetary effort, which in the United States is our dollar. But what happens is if you produce too much debt, you run out of resources to pay in the future. Therefore, the bubble can bust. And if the bubble busts, your economy dwindles. And that's just a short summary of the um, the big debt cycle and long term debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you. The next part of this review is done by Reggie. Reggie.
Hello, everyone. I guess I'll just touch on, poorly managed debt as it relates to debt. So I would think of poorly managed debt as debt that basically when you're servicing the debt, you're either probably not always making your payments on time, extending the payments out such that it's actually accruing more interest, basically making it such that whatever it is that you took on as debt is not actually helping you in a sense of in a way monetarily, whereby you're hurting yourself and you servicing the debt is actually taking more money out of your pocket than it should have, and then necessarily what you've gotten from taking on that debt wasn't that most beneficial to you. So you have to be careful with how you manage that debt, because that debt could be a major disservice to you. And taking on debt, as debt is basically, paying for something that essentially you don't have the money to pay for in the now. So, when you take on that debt, you're actually taken away from your future self, as has been spoken about. We mentioned that already tonight. Taken away from your future self, and you have to basically set aside some time in the future, such that you're able to account for that debt, to make up for those payments, to basically take time out of your life so that you can actually pay down that debt in a way where over that period of time you can eventually get it paid off. So yeah, so that's debt in a general sense, but then the management of it, you can have good debt as well, whereby good debt might be revenue generating, or it could be produced, it could be a property, multifamily property, it could be any in terms of like on an individual basis, it could be something that ultimately is being serviced, but as you are servicing that debt, you're also kind of gaining something from it, because maybe there's a certain amount of money that's coming back to you, that the money that is generated from that debt can pay down and service the debt, and at the same time can also put money in your pocket. And so that in a sense would be a good type of debt. As an individual, like I said, maybe if it's a multifamily property, it could be a certain type of investment, anything of that nature on an individual basis. It can be very different at the level of a country. But if it's bonds and such, whereby you have that type of debt on that level. But basically, that would be good debt. And then how you manage it is you're basically paying off that debt over a certain period of time, whereby there's a certain life of the loan, if you will. And once it's all said and done, you will have maybe taken out X, but maybe at the end of having taken out X, you might return maybe 2X, or just something that's more than X. So that's a good thing. So that's something to consider when you're taking on debt, to understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, and how you manage that debt, and what it is that you actually take as a debt, such that it's going to be a benefit to you and you're not going to come away on a negative of that. So, it's something to be very mindful of. And I would say, just be careful with the debt you're taking on, understand debt as a whole, so that you make.
Reggie, can't hear you very well.
I'm talking right into the phone. So
Much
basically,
better.
on any sort of debt, or you understand debt in a big way, you'll make sure that when you're taking on debt, that's actually gonna be good for you overall.
Wonderful. Thank you, Reg. And lastly, I just wanted to go over that in this book, it gives some type of synopsis on solving the debt crisis. Now, I'm no expert. However, I believe that in order to solve the debt crisis, there has to be a great reset. And every 50 years or so, according to Ray Dalio's book, there is something that is referred to in the Bible as the year of the Jubilee. I recommend you to research this, because it's very important that you're aware that every 50 years or so, it could be more, it could be less, there's a pardoning of debt. And in the Bible is explained in a specific way, and in every religious every religious mention some type of debt relief every 50 years or so, because I don't know how it's referred to, but in the Chinese culture, they have a record of history where every 50 years or so, they've seen these cycles go on and on and on through thousands of years, and they're better prepared to solve the debt crisis. Whereas most of the countries that are newer just like to borrow debt, don't worry about how to pay it back, but know that eventually the debt crisis can be resolved. The bottom line here is that this book is very powerful. It relates to what we're going through right now, which is an inflationary period. And we need to be aware of what's going to happen next before it happens, in order to beat those who are going to be poorer because of paying higher prices for everything that's around us. So this is it for our review on this on our summary on this awesome book by Ray Dalio. If you want to know more about this book, I highly recommend that you research it, because it can teach you a thing or two about how to manage your debt and how to be better prepared for what's coming in the next several months, if not years, on this crash that's supposedly coming. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months, but it will happen either in the next year, or in the next 6 months, or in the next 2 to 3 years. But more from that, you'd have to research. Take care. Until next week, where we'll review another empowering book here at the Mastermind Book Club. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Charles. And thank you, Reggie.